A reading of a passage from Dr. Carr's work now by one of the someone from that group of people who really do the work around here. They're called graduate students. And this is Katrina Phillips will give us a passage from Jubilee.
Thanks, Doc. Speaking of Marjorie Harris Carr, this is from the book she compiled, A Naturalist in Florida. And I chose this passage because it pretty well summarizes sort of the motivation of graduate students and scientists in general. The best cure for a complacent naturalist is to send him back to the field to look at animals. Being alive, wild creatures are unsuddenly prone to behave as they please. They upset one's preoccupations about them, impede the growth of natural history as an exact science. Take the freshwater jubilees, for example. Nobody has the vaguest notion why they happen. The search for clues sends you figuring back and forth across the peninsula of Florida and down under the ground and even out to the sea. Down in Daphne, Alabama, just a little way up the eastern shore of Mobile Bay from the Florida line, most days and nights go by in poetic quiet. But half a dozen times a summer, usually in the early morning hours, you will hear a sudden building of excited talk outside, fast footsteps, and an unlikely racket of cars in the narrow streets that lead down to the Gulf. Above the growing din, you can make out people yelling to one another, or to people inside houses, or just yelling, "Jubilee, Jubilee!" They are not tolling in folk to any ordinary party. They are announcing a Daphne Jubilee. A Jubilee in Daphne is like no other. It is a mass stranding of sea creatures of various kinds, which without evident cause have come teeming up out of the sea and into the shallows, and as if moved by some craving to get out of the water and onto the land. So the term Jubilee, as applied to an unusual congregation of aquatic animals, originated on the eastern shore of Mobile Bay, but it seems appropriate for other congregations of aquatic animals that I have seen, and I aim to tell a bit about them. One of these was the Wakahuta Jubilee. I saw this for the first time back when the Kennedys were spreading about the land a new concern for physical fitness. Long walks had suddenly acquired a vogue, and one day in March, my son David, then 10 years old, set off on one of those man-building hikes with 3 companions. They came back after a little while, irked with one of their number who had grown tired 6 miles out and had hitchhiked back home, but excited over a vast congregation of little fishes in a roadside pool. David seemed uncommonly moved by what they had seen, and to quiet him, we put some nets in the car and drove over to the place. Where a creek ran under the road and stopped, we got out of the car and walked to a pool on the downstream side of the roadfill. With David yelling at us to look, we looked and saw such a sight I'd never saw before. There was a solid mass of thousands of little fishes, salamanders, and crayfish in the water. 5 big culverts took the water out of the creek under the road and dumped into the pool. Peering into this, we could not only see no bottom, we hardly saw water. The pool was so densely packed with animals. To even the most detached or town-loving observer, the Wakahuta Jubilees were a wonder. To a zoologist who fancied himself familiar with the behavioral norms of little animals involved, they were sensational. When the word of a Jubilee would spread to the University of Florida, small groups from the zoology department would instantly drop what they were doing, drive out to the hammock, and stand in the field to discuss the phenomenon, trying earnestly to reason out a logical explanation for it. Through the years, some very learned persons came, but little, as I said, ever came of the ponderings. Then he talks a lot about them and why they might be happening. But this still leaves us unexplained the fundamental questions. Why do sea fishes rendezvous in freshwater springs, both out in the ocean and back inside land? Why do freshwater fishes make other pointless-seeming upcurrent treks? Why do myriad pond fishes of different kinds join crayfish, leeches, and salamanders in mass migrations up a hammock stream? Whether there is a real kinship among these unexplained migrations cannot be told, but in any case, they are all beguiling mysteries of natural history. Though I gladly acknowledge Daphne's prior claim to the term, I shall think of them all as Jubilees.
Thank you, Katrina. That was wonderful.